Well, you know, Dad used to tell us stories about his time in the Army in World War II. And again, he earned the Bronze Star and the Combat Infantry Badge. So he was the real deal. I just think that he inspired me to love my country and that I ought to serve my country in some way.
On July 23, 1977, Fred Schobert left his hometown of Lewisburg, Pennsylvania, to enlist in the United States Navy, where he served until August 31, 1994, retiring as a lieutenant commander.
I reported aboard my first ship up in Seattle, Washington. It was a destroyer in World War II. While I was a gunnery assistant, and this was my first ship, so I was just a young ensign, I didn't know anything. We went out and we shot the best gunnery scores in the Pacific. And my next ship was a nuclear-powered guided missile cruiser, USS Bainbridge, CGN-25. She was out in the Indian Ocean, in the middle of the Indian Ocean, during the Iranian hostage crisis. Part of my Navy career, I was attached to a special boat unit, which was, at that time, they were the riverine patrol units that were in Vietnam. It was up at Mare Island. And as part of that tour of duty, they sent me to SEER School, Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape School, down in Warner Springs, California. And I learned a lot. You look into yourself, because they didn't treat us any differently than we would have been treated as real POWs. I mean, it was real.
Fred began his journey with Veterans Affairs in Oakland in December 1994 and retired on August 31, 2013, as a decision review officer.
After I retired from the Navy, we were desperate. We really were desperate. My income went from here down to here. And we had just bought a home in Bay Point. And my kids were going to Catholic school there in Pittsburgh. And I didn't have a job. Fortunately enough, my wife ran into somebody at the school who worked at the VA down in Oakland. So I went down there and applied, and I got hired. Finally, I got on the appeals team, and where I made decisions on veterans' appeals, first-line decisions on veterans' appeals. And boy, I'll tell you, that's the best feeling in the world, because nobody was going to tell Fred Schobert that I was wrong, except my supervisor.
On September 2013, Fred began his journey with the Contra Costa County Veterans Service Office, where he has continued to serve veterans and their families.
We are really helping people who need help, people who don't understand the system. The VA system has grown so complex that your average person, unless they're just claiming something like hearing loss or tinnitus or, you know, my bad back that I injured in service kind of thing, unless it's a simple claim like that, the average person isn't going to know what forms to use, because there are different forms to use, and how to go about it, where to submit it. You know, they don't know the procedures. That's what we're trained for. And I'll tell you, I try to avoid it, but a veteran walks into my office, and he's a Navy veteran, and we start swapping sea stories, and we've formed a bond, a relationship. I've heard stories and war stories from veterans from the Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, Coast Guard. You just can't help but talk. But to do this job, you really ought to know how to talk the talk and walk the walk. I told both of my kids, you kids do not have to serve because I served. I served for you. But if you want to serve, I highly encourage it. But being a veteran means that you've served your country, you've made sacrifices for your country, for your family, for the homeland.